Next on the PowerPLAY Show, Ruben Garcia studied business and real estate while balancing family and work. But after 12 years at a job that wasn't really feeding him, he decided to make an impactful change in his life and jumped right into his dream career, real estate. But there's so much more to this visionary. Ruben Garcia is my guest on the PowerPLAY Show, coming up next.
From the studios at Hull Bay Productions, this is the PowerPLAY.
Welcome to the PowerPLAY Show. I am your host, Tonya McGrath. My guest today is the very definition of a serial entrepreneur. Ruben Garcia studied business and real estate, all while balancing family and work. But after college and almost 12 years at another job, he decided to make an impactful change in his life and jump right into his dream career, real estate. Since making this major step, Ruben has had major accomplishments in this field since the beginning of his career in 2014. But there's so much more to this visionary. Ruben Garcia, welcome to the PowerPLAY Show. How are you?
Great. Stoked to be here.
I wanted to start off with asking, how was your Father's Day? Father's Day was on Sunday. How was your Father's Day?
It was good. It was good. I'm always weirded out about Father's Day though. Because it's like we get rewarded, or we're supposed to get rewarded and everyone come together for something we're supposed to be doing anyways. It's just, like you're supposed to be a father. So
yeah, let's get rid of all Mother's Day, Father's Day. There's also like Grandparents' Day and all this other kind of stuff that Hallmark made up. But
yeah,
anyways.
Exactly. Listen, there's a machine behind it,
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, let's start off. I want to learn a little bit about you. I want you to tell our audience a little bit about you, your personal life, growing up. Talk to me a little bit about who Ruben is.
Yeah. So I think I'm still figuring that out. I think that's a journey that never ends. You're constantly figuring out who you are when you break through different levels and how you approach things and how you take things. So I'm still figuring that out. But yeah, grew up in, grew up here in Fayetteville, Hope Mills, North Carolina since kindergarten. My mom was a single mother, raised myself and my brother. She was tough though, super tough. So there was definitely, we weren't missing a father figure. She was tough. She was Irish and German, so she didn't play. And then, so grew up, went out of high school. As soon as I went out of high school, went into UPS, started working at UPS. Thought that was going to be my forever thing. Worked there for about 12 years. At the close to end before quitting, I became a single father, raised a daughter. We were on, assistance. And figured that's not the way I wanted to go or the route that I wanted to live. It didn't feel right. So I started looking at different avenues, and real estate ended up being the best fit for what was going to pull me out of my situation. So that was a very broad,
Yeah, that was like 0 to 60, your whole lifespan. Who are some of your influences? You said your dad really wasn't around. Who are some of your influences in growing up?
Yeah. So good or bad?
Well, let's stay with good. This is going to be a conversation.
Yeah. Because growing up, you may not have the best influences. However, when I started to realize that I could change the way I was, like you could change who you are, with a formula called be, do, have, which I think we talked a little bit about that. My influences I had to find, right? So I started finding influences through YouTube, Audible, books, because maybe it wasn't directly near me at that time, but that's an excuse to say that you could find other sources. So, the Les Browns, the Patrick Bet Davids, Gary Vaynerchuk was a big influence. These type of people who just don't quit became influencers, along with this one guy that was in my area. I was dating his granddaughter at the time. He was an entrepreneur. He's a Mexican guy, and he came over here to the States with nothing, was in the fields, and then he started a little taco stand and ended up being a restaurant, and then ended up owning real estate. And he was the guy that I think we talked about this too, but he was the guy that I just didn't, when I got around him, I didn't talk. I just listened. And he was a huge influence. He was the one who told me you can't control the first thought that comes in your mind, but you can always control the second. And what he meant by that was like, we could beat ourselves down that we won't become something, but you could beat up that negative thought with a positive thought. Came from nothing, successful millionaire. So he was someone I very much looked up to, and I really listened when he talked.
Did you always know kind of in the back of your mind that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
100%, always.
Because it's not an easy thing. I mean, everyone wants to like be successful and have money and be comfortable, whatever, but it's not an easy thing.
No, and I think I said that. But that's why I like it, right? Because it's not easy. It's gray. It's thorny. It's not easily obtained. You have to work for it every single morning through night. You have to breathe it. You eat it. I mean, it lives with you, and there's sacrifices that you. But I love that path. But I think, and I did a little thing on this. It's pretty cool. But when I really started to realize that I wanted to make my own way, I lived in this cul-de-sac when I was younger, and I used to go to the neighbor's house and knock on their door to sweep off their driveway and get paid to do it. And we didn't have like snow or anything, but we had pine straw and dirt. And so I was like, I bet they don't want that on their driveway. and I don't know, that was super young, second grade, third grade, I want to say. It was very, very young, but that's what started everything.
Wow, you had that entrepreneurial spirit all the way then. So, you had this job, kind of like a 9-to-5, if you will, right? You were at UPS for over a decade. And what was it about? I mean, you made a decision to leave, and I couldn't imagine that was very easy. You had to there were a lot of like thoughts and had to go into it. Did you jump right into real estate? What was that transition like for you?
So I remember, I worked nights at UPS, and if you wanted extra hours, you would help the drivers out through seasonal stuff. Christmas time, right? We were Santa Claus, and I would help. But when I talked to the drivers, right when I became a single father, I would talk to the drivers and I would say, hey, how's family life? What does that look like? And they were like, what? Family what? We're constantly working. Christmas, you could forget it. And I thought that was my play from the beginning. But when I started hearing the stories, there's a quote out there, don't complain about what you tolerate. And I couldn't complain about it any longer. I had to figure out a way. So I started asking friends, and I was like, hey, what would I be good at? Like, what would pull me out? And they said, man, you'd be good at sales. I said, okay, well, I don't want to sell cell phones. Nothing against that, but I don't want to sell. If I'm going to sell something, I want to sell something big. And so real estate popped in my mind, and I just researched it, looked at what it looks like. It was a small barrier entry. And that whole process took probably approximately 2 years of asking drivers, can I do it? I don't know if I can. You got someone else to look out for. It's not just you, man, you're selfish. The market, and you're hearing it from everybody else too. The market's flooded with agents. How do you think you could do this? You got it made. You got pension. You did it. So you're fighting a lot. You're fighting a lot. But I remember, taking in all that information, looking at the low barrier entry, and then I walked out UPS one night and I looked up at the sky, because remember I worked nights, and the sun was going down, and it was a beautiful sunset, gorgeous, like every color that you could think of was in the sky. And I just remember thinking, like, this is it. Like, this is why I was born, is to move one package location to another package location. Right. That's it. Like, I just really started questioning. I was like, man, screw this. Like, I'm going for it. And then that's kind of how it happened, very broad of 2 years. But that was like a pivotal moment when I looked up in the sky, and it was just too beautiful and too big and too vast to just say, this is the only reason I'm here,
That's incredible.
Not knocking my buddies right, who are crushing it at UPS. It's just that was for me in that moment,
And that's important to say because, as we talked about on the radio show, and we're talking about the Ray Thomas Variety Show Live, and we interviewed Ruben last week on the Power News. we talked about, like, this is not cut out for everyone. And it shouldn't be, because if everybody was a business owner, then our economy would just crash. But it's not for everyone. So what were those fears that you had during those 2 years when you were kind of listening to all this noise in one side, but then you were saying, no, I can do it. But what were some of your fears then?
Well, the quote unquote security that you get at a job, I believe that it was real security. And if I jumped, then I would no longer have security, because real estate's a 100% commission based gig. But started to realize is that I can never really fall down, because again, we were on assistance. So even at the time, the state wouldn't allow you to fall unless you just got heavy on drugs or something. If you were trying your best, there was always that assistance. So although that was a small fear that I was going to lose, which, come on, security, I don't know if that's a real thing with a job, but that's what I believed it to be. But I also knew that I was going to do whatever it took, and that I really couldn't fall. There was always this safety net. And although it was uncomfortable to be in that safety net of being part of the system, I was like, there's nothing but up from here. So it was a very small fear. It was very outweighed by the possibility versus the probable of what might have happened.
And I'm listening to you, and I think for so many people, unfortunately, that safety net, if you will, is their comfort zone, and they don't see anything kind of beyond that, which, it's unfortunate, but it's also the circumstances for a lot of people. And I'm not knocking anybody who needs help and needs to rely on it. But for you, you took that as you mentioned, that was your foundation. There was no way to go up from there. Were there other people in your life who were saying, Ruben, you are out of your mind if you're going to leave this great job and and you have a young daughter, and what are you thinking about?
Yeah, that was, man, if I were to just put everybody together and say 10 people, I would say 9.5 out of 10 were saying you're selfish, you're crazy, you'll never make it. It just wasn't, but I realized, but the 0.5 was strong too, right? Like you almost listen to those more, and which I did have that a little bit of that group that was always supportive, but you definitely felt as if you weren't going to get support when you jumped. The only support was your own 2 feet, and you better land on them,
You have this great theory about failure, particularly when it comes to owning and running a business. Talk about that a bit, because the theory, just, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, is that, you have to fail in order to figure out what your next step is, or to fix what is there so that you can be more successful. But talk about that theory that you have about failure, which I think is just so strong.
Yeah, so I like to say this too. I sit on the shoulder of giants, right? So I have just studied and emulated others. So I don't believe I'm this unique thing. I think I do a really good job of copying successful people. And man, there's this, is this video too, or is it just audio?
It's video too.
Oh, okay, so check this out. So like I saw this on it's not across. Either way, I apologize. I was trying to draw it out real quick. This is a small little, but it's 1 is greater than 0.
Yeah.
1 is greater than 0. And the whole idea is to take 1 step forward, stop trying to figure it out and for this thing to be perfect, because we don't want it to be perfect. The day it's quote unquote perfect is the day we stop growing, is the day there's no more growth. The only way we can grow this is we have to be in a steady mindset of keep breaking the system, keep breaking the model, keep breaking your mindset, keep breaking your habit, it has to be this continual failure, because that's how you identify the gaps in the whole system. If the system looks like this, then what are we really doing? It's done. We're done. Now, if we start pulling it apart, and what we do is we create this gap and I say, oh man, we broke it. But how do we fill this gap to make this stronger? Then the bond gets even stronger, right? And then you break that. And then over time, that becomes a very, 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 very strong bond that not only carries you, it carries everybody else that you may employ, that you may put on a 1099. You built this system and model that's almost proven. But what's cool is as those people come up in your system that you have fixed, they have a different perspective. Now they're going to break it. And this thing keeps getting bigger and bigger and stronger only if we break it and fail almost every single day. 100%.
And do you encourage the folks that you work with to think that way, to, that, I mean, I have my staff here and I say, like, I don't know everything and my way doesn't have to be the only way. So do you encourage that with your staff as well?
Yeah. I mean, we call ourselves misfits and disruptors, right? And because that has to almost be the culture that we have to, in some, and I'll explain, I got this other thing I want to talk about, but like, we got to play in the gray. We can't play in just one side or the other because it's too straight and narrow. Only by playing in the gray as a unit that we can expose the opportunity, right? Because in the black and white, everyone's moving in a uniform direction. When you find opportunity is when everyone's moving in this way and you move that way. You move in the opposite direction of what everyone's saying or what everyone's doing. That is how we have found all our opportunity. But what do you have to do? You have to build this environment of disruption. And yeah, so big time, we're big on that. 100% big on that.
What have been some of your failures in, establishing your company here, and how have you overcome them?
So I think, and I said this too because it was kind of fresh, is putting trust in others' vision. So much so I lose sight of my own. I would say that was probably one of my biggest, I don't know if it was a big failure point in financially, but just internally, I guess, that I allowed myself to listen to a vision and believe in the vision and kind of start letting go of my own vision was a big failure point, because once I realized it and I took ownership of my situation, I broke from that, and it's been way better when you internalize who you are and you start following that direction. I would say lately that's been one of the biggest problems, or one of the biggest failures that I've had.
Wow. Did the real estate industry come like very natural to you? I mean,
No. No, I was a worker. When I started at UPS, like, just tell me what to do and I'm going to do it the very best I can. And by doing that, that's going to expose new opportunity in management or supervise, So that's all I knew. I just knew work hard, sweat. But when I moved into real estate, I had to do a few things. One, I had to learn how to dress. We talked about this. Two, I had to learn how to talk. I didn't know how to really articulate things. So, just for that one alone, if I said, man, I got to really talk to people. Like I gotta have to talk to people and have them understand a process that I don't even understand.
Right.
How do I articulate that? And so I joined the largest church in our area, and I became a greeter. And by becoming the greeter, I started I started hearing how people talked. And what I really found out is that people don't care as much as we think they care. Right? They have their own life, their own problems, their own challenges. You are at that moment, it's not a big deal that you screwed up on a few words. But I had to learn that by failure in communication. And that's how one way. Another way, I just watched people how they dressed, And like I was saying on the other show, slacks were slacks. A coat was a coat. I didn't know size mattered. I just didn't grow up that way. I just thought, a tie was a tie, and that was you were looking professional. So it took me failure moments through that too, to find out, like, man, you have to, in the beginning, I had to dress to get respect. I had to walk different. I couldn't walk like how I used to walk. Man, you had to walk purposeful, straight, and like you had somewhere to be. And that gained respect too. So I had to learn how to be a different person. I ran into one of my buddies back in, one of my old buddies, and he was like, man, you don't even sound the same. He said, you don't look the same and you don't sound the same. And you know what I said to him? I said, then it's working. I shouldn't sound or be the same a year from now. There should be something different that I've improved on, but that's a different mindset. You're stuck. You should be that old person that you always grew up like. No, I should be changing and evolving all the time. But it takes practice, and it takes failure, and it takes you to be uncomfortable and putting yourself around these different circles and these different people to learn new skills. But you have to break that comfort level in order to level up. And that's just a constant journey forever.
No, I am so going through this right now. So that's my life. You talked about your work ethic, and talk about, people say that they want to own a business, right? They have no idea what kind of work ethic goes into it. I wake up at 5:58 every morning. I usually don't go, my studio is in my house. Don't go upstairs until 7, sometimes 8. Tonight it's going to be 9 o'clock. It's like it never ends. Your mind is always going. But you feel, at least I do, I feel such an accomplishment just putting in all that work every single day. And that's a mindset as well, because not everybody, people want to be business owners. This is what I come across. People want to be business owners, but they don't want to do the work.
Yeah. But that's opportunity for us, isn't it?
Right. Absolutely.
Because we have when people are telling me, man, there's so many real estate agents in this market, how are you ever gonna make it? I'm like, they're all average. Now here's the deal. They're not all average. Most are average. I'll just put in the work to be above average. Right? The opportunity is that everyone thinks that way. The opportunity is that people say they want something but never go for it. There's a lot of talk, not a lot of action. And even in that not a lot of action, there's only like that 1 to 5% that are doubling down on action. That's why there's an infinite amount of opportunity for us. But when people understand that, and they understand, like, man, if I just put in the work, if I just work harder, like if I work a 16-hour day today, and someone who says they put in the work, put in an 8-hour day, I have put in double the amount of time. I've learned double the amount of stuff in a year than they have in 1 year. Time is only what I decide it to be for me. I will manufacture more of it for me to get ahead of you. But that's where the opportunity lies, is so many people think that it's going to be easy. And I did a few videos on this. One was the cycle of what it feels like to start your own business. And it came out of a book. Oh man, what was it? The 16-week year or something like that. Completely chopped that up. But if you go to my YouTube at Proven by Ruben, it talks about how you're excited, then it's not going the way you think it's going to go. Then you're in the valley of despair. Like, this is never going to go right. But if you push past that,
right,
then you really start to feel it. I did another video of like, how do you turn this entrepreneurial thing off when you're on vacation?
That's a good one.
Because I hear that. How do I do it? Exactly. And I talk about how I do that. This is how I've learned to do it. Once you are like a thoroughbred entrepreneur, or you have just, it's become so ingrained in you and a part of you, you can't turn it off. And you have to accept that. So what we do is, when I go on vacation, set an appointment with somebody in that area that's going to be either a conversation about business, conversation about real estate, or something along those lines. And what I do is I get my fix. I almost get my fix in the morning, and then the rest of the day I can spend with family and enjoy it. But if I don't get my fix, like, I've just accepted it. Instead of saying, man, how do you turn this thing off? Which I was like, no, it's just part of me. How do I fulfill that little bit? And if I go into a whole video about it, I'm on the beach doing it too. But like 5 a.m, like, I can't turn it off, but I love it. I don't want to turn it off. So
I think for me, I turn my ringer on my phone off at 9 p.m. every night. That's what I have to do for me, because between the emails and the notifications and the hits on the website, I would just be up all night wondering. And so I had to train myself that when I put my phone to sleep, you know, with the exception of emergencies like my kids can get through, but
sure,
that's it. And I go to bed at a very decent hour every single night. That's the other thing. So, you know, when we talk about how, you know, what kind of advice we can give to people, one of the things that I truly believe in is a good night's rest. And I know that sounds like so old-fashioned, whatever, but I'm in bed at 9 o'clock every single night, and I don't fall asleep right away. Sometimes I'm watching a little TV, work, whatever, but I'm in bed. And it's a practice that I had to do, because if not, I could be down here all night long, and then it's 4 a.m, and then I haven't had any rest, and then I'm grumpy the next day and I can't get anything done because my brain's not working. What kind of advice would you give to folks who are really trying to figure out how to manage themselves, their time, their energy, their work ethic in getting this right?
Yeah, so I did a video on this too. I call it the freedom structure, which is, so if you believe it, by the way, we broke it down. I heard it on Clubhouse of like how many streams of income you have. So we counted ours. We have 12. We have 12 right now. And it's like, how do you manage that? Right? Like, how do you turn it off at night? If you look at my phone, which, by the way, look at my phone, trust hard work. But it's never on vibrate. It's never on speak. I don't even know what the ringtone sound. It's 100% on silence and has been for years. And the reason is because I know what I should be doing, who I should be doing that with, and how long that's going to take, because I've plugged in everything into my calendar. So I knew there was 10 events happening today. Meetings, appointments, podcast, mastermind was happening today. But after this, I'm done for the day, right? I'm done. Yeah. But that's a 5:30 day, right? But so there's a whole way to do it. And the first thing you do is you get a calendar, but 2, you plug in your family, right? You plug in your hobbies, the things you love, your what we call a My Day, Why Day, which is 1 day out of the month you do whatever you want. There's all these little hacks that you look out for you first. Sleep first. Then you have opportunity and all that white space in the calendar where there's nothing, and you plug it with the 20% or they call them big rocks. What are the things that are going to move your business and your family forward? And do those first. Those should be the first things of the day.
Right.
And then fires start to happen, you know? But plug in those big rocks in the white space, and you got to be disciplined, right? I always call it the bridge. Like, you're building an empire, you're building a castle, but it's surrounded by a moat of water. And you are the one lowering the bridge, allowing distractions to stop you. It's your fault. Keep the bridge up. Keep it lifted up. Follow your calendar. Follow your personal stuff and your priorities first. Then do your business stuff in the time that you have time blocked, and give it about 90-ish plus days of hard work, no return, and then you'll start to see some little results. But you get so habit-based on that you'll fall. You know what time I go to lay down?
What time?
I'm laying down like 8:15.
Yeah.
Because I have a 2-year-old.
All day long. Yes, absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
I wake up at 4:45 in the morning, and I'm preparing what I need to prepare and all that. But I'm down and I get my sleep, but I'm very purposeful on what I have blocked into my calendar that I said was my priorities, and I'm very purposeful on executing the activities in my businesses to keep them moving forward. That's it.
One of the other things that I've done relative to calendar on the same subject is my assistant does not schedule my calendar. I do it. And the reason why is because I know how much brain space I need to get from one meeting to the next, right? And if it's like boom, 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 I don't have time to kind of recalibrate and figure out what to do next. So,
yeah.
We started this podcast at 4:30. At 3:30, I stopped what I was doing before. And I took my kind of like little mental rest, got dressed, put on a little bit of makeup. Anyways, and then and do it. So, but for me, having control over that, I'm able to kind of like, okay, take a breath and now go on to the next thing. And for me, and I wish I had my calendar. Oh, I do have my calendar. If you saw my calendar, you would probably laugh now that we're like sharing calendars here. But I think it's just so important that, so this is my calendar this week, everybody.
Yeah.
I have a huge project, which is the Orange project that's due on Saturday. So that's my calendar this week. But I know everything that I need to get done. And there's no surprises. And, and I take phone calls. I do. My mom calls me, I take the phone call. My daughter calls me, I take a phone call. Because that's also an opportunity for me to just step away for a second. My dogs are going to start barking. And just kind of like, and then I go right back into it. I never stay in one space for long, but then I go right back to it and keep that going. So what is next for Ruben Garcia now that you are just taking over the real estate world?
Yeah. So I think what's next. So by the way, if you have a partner that is supportive of entrepreneurship, because it is a sacrifice on their end too. So when you say like, what's next, I think what conversations I've had with my wife. And if you need to, what we did in the beginning was we had a state of marriage conversation once a month, which was where are we at? What do we need to fix? Oh, by the way, one of the priorities is date night too. We have date night once a month.
Saturday night.
These are priorities, man.
Saturday
These go in first.
Date night. Yep.
Yeah. See, all this should go in first. But so we do that. And the last one was we identified 4 things that we could focus on next. And it came down to what would happen if one of these things worked out, which was putting another home under contract at a good price for an investment property. And that ended up working out. So we're in the mix of coordinating rehab and getting it up and hitting the market. But after that, the conversation is RV. We get an RV. We rent it out probably 6 months out of the year because it has to cash flow first. This is how our mindsets think. And then use it to be a vehicle that travels to different areas to where we teach others. We motivate others. We help others. Yeah, because again, I can't just be on vacation. There has to be some purpose, There has to be some purpose behind it. And then maybe if we hit a coast, we hit a cruise or something. But I think that's next, right? Is how do we pick this thing up and start to travel to locations and just give back through teaching and pushing people to do better, be better. I think that's next.
That's great. That's great. And if you ever come to Boston, I have a venue for you to be at.
Okay.
So, yeah. So,
hey, that's awesome.
But don't come in the wintertime because you're going to hate it because it gets very, very cold up here.
I'll come in the summer.
Yeah, come in the summer. The PowerPLAY Show ends with asking our guests 3 questions. And my first question to you is, who has been your biggest inspiration today? The
real estate firm I'm with, there's definitely a couple I look up to, and they push me to be better. I think they're younger than me, and they're doing very well. They had to move to Puerto Rico Puerto Rico, and they're crushing it down there. And what they've been able to accomplish, they take their kids everywhere, so their kids are exposed to all of this and the hard work of it.
Nice.
I'd say that was there. But I also want to be like, I'm inspired by my wife, because how I could be so bullheaded and just forward moving that I leave such a disaster that she's got a good way of fixing things. You know what I mean? And even just, she sees the best in like people when sometimes I'm like, no, don't trust them. They just did this. You know, so I'm inspired by like the person she is, because it's not what I grew up with. She's the opposite. I'm inspired by my daughter, of like how she sees every single day as a brand new day. She's 2 years old. I mean, when they see something they want, they don't just walk to it. They run everywhere. They're so excited and happy and in the moment. Man, it's just like, that's a beautiful space to be in. So I'm inspired by that. Inspired by so much, you know? So I guess those are the first ones that come to mind.
My second question is, what is the most important piece of advice you would give someone on the fence about starting their own business?
Oh, take action. That's it. Just move towards it. That's it. Because in that, a few things will happen when you take action. One, you'll be like, nope, not for me. You know, I thought it was, it's not. Two, say this is where you're at, right? And you move forward, you take one step up. Although this wasn't the space for you, what it might have done is open up a new opportunity to go left versus right. So then you take a left. And then you might find out that wasn't for you. But what happened is it opened up a new opportunity. And then you end up pivoting and taking a right from that opportunity. And before you know it, all those little have brought you closer to where you're starting to figure out you should be. But it took that one step that you'll go back and look at 5 years ago and be like, what the heck was I thinking? But what it did was it just opened a new door. But you'll never get to door 3 if you don't step into door 1. Never. It's behind door 2. How can you expose door 2 if you don't expose door 1? So for those people who are on the fence, just step into it. Lean into it. And we talked about this. Fail forward. Just fail forward. Just fail forward. And all those little failures will open up new opportunities, and you'll get closer to where you want to be, because life is going to test you. It's going to be like, oh, you said you want it. All right, let's see how bad you want it. And you don't get it by talking. You get it by action. So keep stubbing your foot. Just keep going forward.
My last question is, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
I would trust that I was in the mindset to receive what I told myself, you know? Because I think I was told a lot of things at 18 that I probably would go back and tell myself, but I wasn't in the mindset. So maybe I wouldn't go to the target. I would put like a small step in to move me closer to target, because there was enough people telling me what I needed to hear. I just wasn't ready to receive it. So maybe it'd be what started changing my mindset, which I wish I would have done earlier, was listening to books. I was never really a good reader in terms of paying attention. I would read 3 pages and forget what I just read. So I'd probably say
my husband.
all day.
He just
so I have to.
Yeah.
I do, and I can feel like what the author's saying, and I don't know. So I would say listen to Think and Grow Rich. I'd probably just tell myself, listen to Think and Grow Rich, because it all starts up here, you know? And if I can start changing this, then I probably would be in a way better position to receive what others were telling me. So the fastest way I can think of is just listening to the things that I found out later were awesome, which was Think and Grow Rich. Miracle Morning, these type of books that excel you without changing your physical space, but you feel yourself lifting up out of that physical space. I would say that.
So good. So good. I could talk to you for so much longer. Ruben Garcia, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You serial entrepreneur. You tell folks how they can find you, how they can follow you, how they can get to see some of these incredible videos, which we will seen a part of them in this show. But tell folks how they can find you.
Yeah. So if you want to watch any of those videos, go to Proven by Ruben on YouTube, but don't stop there. Comment. I want to hear what you took out of it, what you didn't like about it, what I can change about it, because I'm constantly learning too. But I want to hear from you. Don't just watch it and walk away. Like, engage with me. So YouTube and Instagram and LinkedIn and all the others, all by Proven by Ruben.
All right. Ruben Garcia, best of luck to you. Continued success. God bless.
Thank you. You're a woman.
Remember, you can listen to past episodes of the PowerPLAY Show wherever you subscribe to podcasts, including iTunes, iHeartRadio, and now Pandora Podcasts. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel. Simply search the Hull Bay Productions Media channel. And of course, we air each Saturday at 5 p.m. on BroncoIRadio.com. So there's so many ways to catch the PowerPLAY Show, whether you are streaming it wherever you subscribe to podcasts, or on YouTube on our Hull Bay Productions Media channel, or on BroncoIRadio.com on Saturdays at 5 p.m. And if you've missed any of that, you can always visit us at thepowerplayshow.com. As many of you have heard, I am in development of my second film, More Than Our Skin. Here is the latest trailer featuring one of the extraordinary women who will help tell this important story. It is my pleasure to introduce to you, Alicia.
I had great friends, but you always have the bullies. So there was one in particular. It was VK, and he was awful. He was 2 years older than me. I think anytime he passed me in the hallway, he called me Spot. Like, any chance he got. And he, there was a few. He was the worst. So I'll just focus on him. But, I remember one time we were walking home in the park, and he grabbed my winter coat and threw it in the dumpster, just to be a jackwagon. and it was just, he's like, go get it, Spot. And my sister wasn't there. So I had to go get it. And it was like, what, why? Just because I look different. And Spot was definitely the nickname that everybody gave me. And that was hard to hear. I felt whole. And if someone is meeting somebody for the first time and doesn't have that validation, then they're still going to have that empty feeling. They're still going to have that I don't belong feeling. And how stupid is that? Like, you're coming into a community because they look like you and know what you're feeling. And then if somebody says, well, your spots aren't as bad, that's so insulting and so horrible. I had that happen to me at a conference in Detroit because they said, oh, I don't even see your vitiligo. And it's like, I'm at a vitiligo conference. What? Like, it is. It's, you want to feel included because we haven't been included. They feel what it is like to have vitiligo, that it is more than our skin, and that there's highs and lows with it. There's also good things. I've met incredible people because of my vitiligo that I never would have met in my life, ever. I never would have went to Detroit. I never went to DC like that. I never would have met these people and connected. It's crazy because I have a second family that I'll always have, and it's precious.
If you so inclined, please visit morethanourskin.org and learn about the film, the incredible stories we will share, and leave a donation to help the making of this important story. Independent filmmakers rely on the generosity of people like you who believe in the stories we help to share with the world. And I thank you for your support. Until next time, I'm Tonya McGrath. Be well, and remember, as my guest said, the only failure is not trying at all. Be blessed.